Betrayal doesn't always come with a warning. Sometimes, it arrives wrapped in kindness, disguised as love. Emma thought she knew her family, until one Christmas night, she discovered the truth. They had lied. They had excluded her. And as she sat alone, watching them celebrate without her, something inside her changed. This wasn't just a forgotten invitation. It was a choice. And if they could erase her so easily, then she would make sure they never forgot her again.
Emma has never been a vindicious person. She told herself at least that. She had always been the understanding daughter, the sister who embraced being passed over, the one who ate her pride and acted as though everything was good. But something inside her broke that Christmas night, in a way never recoverable. The treachery was not overt or blatant. It was subtle, buried under handy justifications and kind words. The kind of damage that hurts worse since it results from those who should love you most. All of it began with a phone call. Speaking in a nice but slightly regretful manner, her mother said the Christmas dinner had been called off. Nobody could get together given the poor weather. Emma was let down, yet she understood. The winter had been severe, hence perhaps staying home would have been safer for everyone. She sighed as she put away the candles she had purchased for the supper, and the well-wrapped present she had intended to present her niece. She accepted the justification without inquiry. She consoled herself it was normal. She might spend the evening drinking hot chocolate, seeing a movie, and appreciating silence, but something inside her disagreed. Hoping fresh air might clear her head, she grabbed her car keys and started to drive. The city was quiet, covered in a coating of snow, and for a brief instant she felt tranquility. She drove aimlessly, staring at the dazzling Christmas lights in the windows of homes, each one with a unique narrative. She turned onto the street headed toward her sister's house practically without thinking. And it was at that point the reality showed itself in the most brutal manner imaginable. The road was crowded with vehicles, and the house radiated warm lights, golden reflections from the fireplace. The same vehicles that ought to have been in their own garages, waiting for the canceled Christmas dinner. Emma halted. The ice running through her veins was far more than the frigid air outside. Her pulse sped and her gut turned. She sat in her car, staring at the vibrant house, watching through the windows as her family laughed, toasted, told stories, and enjoyed a Christmas she had been told just hours ago was impossible. More than any cold frost, the sting of shame seared. It was not a lapse in judgment. It was not a BL error. They made a decision. They had decided to meet, to savor the cohesiveness of family, and to do it all without her. Emma might have strolled up to the door. She could have knocked, insisted on an explanation, made them face their actions. She didn't, however. Silent, an outsider staring into a world she was meant to belong to, she sat there. And she decided at that very instant, confrontation would not exist, not one furious word or accusation here. They would never know the level of suffering they had brought about for her, but they would experience it, slowly, profoundly, in ways they would not even be able to comprehend. The phone call started that next morning. Her mother first, her voice full of phony worry. "Oh, honey, we regret last night greatly. It was a last-minute choice. We truly believed the weather would stop us, but at the last minute, we just decided to meet after all. We reasoned you most likely had other plans." Emma paid close attention but silently. Her mother spoke as though she expected her to just accept the justification, as like that would make everything okay. Then her sister called, her voice weighed with barely veiled remorse, trying to calm things down, acting as though it was all a misinterpretation. Emma remained quiet. She said nothing accusing of them. Rather, she said just, "I understand." Her voice was even friendly calm. Her mind, though, was already in action. Her response would not be instantaneous. That would be far too clear. Her get back would be subdued, imperceptible, gradual. It would begin with modest gestures, little deeds that would erode the basis of their family, without their knowledge of where the cracks were coming from. The first moves were nearly invisible, timed messages with great care, innocent queries that led to contradictions. "Mom, she bought everything a week ago, but last-minute organization by my sister revealed. That is odd, not least of which is." And here's where things get interesting. Emma never raised her voice, never confronted anyone, yet she managed to turn the very foundation of her family into a fragile web of mistrust. But let me ask you something. If you were in Emma's place, would you have done the same? Would you have sought quiet revenge, or would you have confronted them that night, standing in the cold, watching your family celebrate without you? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear how you would have handled this betrayal. Oh, and if you're enjoying the story so far, don't forget to hit that like button. It helps more than you think. Now back to Emma's plan. She once let out an apparently innocuous comment as well. "Sis, was the gift your brother suggested or your own idea for Mom? Mom swore it was you. He told me he chose it out." These simple remarks were enough to sow uncertainty. Nobody initially observed, but trust started to wither with time. Little misinterpretations became unsaid hostility, and once natural discussions became tense and unpleasant. Emma was still not done though. She discovered means to widen the rift. Once under protection, small secrets started to leak, accidentally of course. Private conversations found their way into the wrong ears at some point. The once perfect harmony of the family began to fall apart gradually rather than with a flash. Everything changed the next year as Christmas drew near. The invites were sent out deliberately with fresh urgency. Her mother made sure to underline how much they wanted her there, how they had missed her the year before. Emma grinned to herself then said. She stated she valued the effort, thanked them for the invitation, but sadly she already had other plans. And that Christmas Emma silently toasted to herself while her family assembled once more, this time with unresolved tensions hovering over them. Not with resentment, not because she craved solitude, but she understood she would never be forgotten once more. Her payback was not an explosion of wrath. It was not a frontal confrontation. Their brains whispered a continual reminder that they had previously decided to leave her behind, and the evidence proving their awful error. Time had gone by, but Emma thought that Christmas night's sense of justice was insufficient to totally heal the scar of treachery. Maybe ignorant of what she had done, her family continued with their lives. Perhaps they felt a hazy unease, an unspoken tension lingering in their exchanges, but none of them ever thought she had piecemeal, slow deterioration of their relationships under direction. Still, Emma harbored unmet needs inside her. Not one single incident, that Christmas meal ignored me. Looking back, she saw she had always been considered as secondary, someone might overlook without consequences. Her birthdays were celebrated with generic notes, her professional accomplishments discounted in talks mostly focused on those of her siblings. She had always been the one trying to be part of something that, in the end, had never really included her, to keep the peace to please. She could now see everything plainly though. She now realized that ensuring they feel the weight of what they had done would be the only way to guarantee they never neglected her once more. Her exacting retribution was not done. This time, just seeds of uncertainty would not be sufficient. She desired more. She wanted them to experience the pain of loneliness, the resentment of rejection, the uncertainty of not knowing where they stood. Exactly as she had felt observing from her car, as they celebrated a Christmas that was never supposed to happen without her. She moved with more boldness next. Emma gently but subtly entered the life of every family member over the next months, not in conspicuous manner, but with quiet accuracy. She grew more sensitive with her mother, phoning more frequently, making little gestures of care, gently suggesting that she was the only child who could be really present while the others were always too busy. She fulfilled the role of the encouraging sister, doing small gestures, writing meaningful notes, creating a bond never really existing before. Her brother needed a different strategy, well-placed compliments, little guidance that seemed innocuous, but gradually fostered an unconscious allegiance between them. She turned into a subdued background influence that changed the family dynamics without anyone noticing. Emma then behaved unexpectedly. She accepted the offer when the next Christmas drew near. Something changed the minute she verified her existence. Her mother sounded on the phone relieved, as though fearing she would reject once more. Her sister was too eager to make sure she knew how much they wanted her there this time. Emma could feel the anxiety in her brother's casual message. She had silently woven herself into their life over the past year, leaving behind in ways they could not fully grasp her departure. She was now providing exactly what they had been waiting for by consenting to join them. Emma still had to work though. She showed up at her sister's house exactly on time, dressed tastefully, and exuded calm assurance. The house was cozy, decorated with known accents, and the air smelled roasted food. Apart from the people, everything seemed exactly as it had the year before. Their encounters had a rigidity, a cautiousness not seen before. Now they were all somewhat forced, the simple laughter and the easy delight. Emma had painstakingly crafted. The fissures in their relationships still existed under the surface. Dinner came, and the chat started. Emma performed her part exactly, kind, involved, yet discreetly perceptive. She listened carefully, asked intelligent questions, and at the proper times dropped brief, apparently harmless remarks that sparked old uncertainties. Emma slanted her head slightly when her sister described a family trip talk she had with their mother. "Oh, that seems odd." Mom admitted she wasn't sure about the trip yet. Perhaps she came to change her mind. Just a straightforward comment, but enough to cause her sister to glance at their mother and flutter uncertainty between them. Emma nodded and grinned when her brother mentioned a recent career advance. "Oh right, it is the one Mom mentioned." She claimed to be shocked since she assumed you would not be fulfilling that job. A benign remark, but one that caused her brother to scowl and doubt what their mother had said. She carried on this way all evening, never hostile, never clear. Just little well-placed comments that kept their heads whirling, kept them second-guessing each other. Emma observed her family warily as dessert was presented. She could see the tiredness in their eyes even if they were still grasping the idea of unity. Not only from the event, but from the months of subdued tensions, from the mounting uncertainty in their relationships. They were fatigued. And the nicest thing is they were unsure of the cause. They would never start to question her. She was to them simply Emma, the quiet one, the understanding one, the one who had kindly come back to the family after being excluded the year before. Her mother called her aside as the evening drew to an end. "Emma, I just want to say how delighted I am that you're here," she replied gently. "Without you it wouldn't have been the same." Emma grinned, her face friendly. "I know, Mom," she shot back. She also performed. She was sure that her absence would have been intolerable to them this year. That evening she left the house lighter, triumphant in a sense that nobody else could grasp. Still, it wasn't enough. Her exacting retribution had barely touched the surface, yet it had worked. Emma intended to delve further, to totally separate the familial ties, to make sure the remorse they had for that one Christmas would follow them for years to come. She had already shown they could be controlled, bent to her quiet will without their knowledge. Things was time now to move things ahead. She kept her deliberate game over the next several weeks. She set up one-on-one conversations with every family member, gently skewering stories to support uncertainty. She had the belief that her sibling was becoming aloof alongside her mother. She said with her sister that their mother seemed to be preferring their boy. She implied with her brother that their mother had been hiding secrets from him for years. And gradually the tension boiling under the surface bubbled over. And disagreement broke out the next evening they were dining. It began modest, a casual remark on holiday plans, but developed rapidly. Old wounds opened, voices were yelled, accusations thrown. Emma silently delighted in seeing it all happen. They were not a family kept together by the end of the evening. They were split, wary of one another, not sure whom to believe. Emma too? She was the only one who seemed to have no role in the anarchy, the only one who stayed unaltered. She was at last finished. They wouldn't forget her ever again.
Emma made her family pay for leaving her out. But what if being forgotten wasn't the worst thing that could happen? What if you weren't left out by accident, but because you were never supposed to be there in the first place? This isn't just another story about a lonely Christmas. It's about a terrifying truth hiding behind the twinkling lights and cheerful song. If you thought Emma's revenge was unsettling, wait until you see what happens when the holiday spirit is nothing but a lie.